Welcome to Cultivation Manga. Today we are counting the top 10 cultivation manhwa in the modern world. Let's get started. 10. The Celestial returned from hell. Yunsung Choi, the first human ever to become a celestial, goes off to train in the abyss to stop other celestials from swallowing the earth whole. Will he be able to protect Earth? After reading the first chapters I realized, wow! This is simply amazing. The art is amazingly beautiful with a good storyline and decent character development. In my opinion, you won't regret reading it and it's going to rock your world. I'm eagerly waiting for the next chapter. 9. Doom Breaker. Zephyr is the last human fighting evil in a world abandoned by the gods. When he is killed in battle by Tartarus, the god of destruction, all hope for humanity seems lost. But Zephyr's fate is not sealed. The gods who find his battles entertaining have gifted him a second chance at life, as he is sent 10 years into the past, back to when he was a slave instead of the most powerful human alive. Can Zephyr get his revenge against Tartarus and save the woman he loves, or is he doomed to repeat the past? Though the premise is predictable, in a world in chaos because of a demon lord, the last surviving human somehow injures the mighty demon lord before he dies. In heaven, a god informs him that he embarrassed the demon lord. So the other gods want him to reincarnate, to see if he could do the same thing or not, for their entertainment. Now reincarnated with the same powers he had when he died and knowledge he possessed of the future, will he succeed or fail? Through more chapter updates, the art style and characters are exquisite. I like the theology behind this universe, as well as the concept of the gods betting more, cheats. Zephyr does the best he can to piss off the gods, but at the same time becomes their entertainment so he could survive in this corrupted world longer. Although several plot elements are taken from several other comics, there's a few moments of originality in it that keeps it interesting. 8. Life Howling. Yun Wan may be an orphan, but he was a college student who was focusing hard on his studies. One day he is brought to a mysterious white room to fight even when he does not want to. Every time he defeats these monsters he gains psychic power, magic, and items beyond his imaginations. 7. The max level hero strikes back. Struck by an enemy's arrow, the powerless Prince Davy Orowane falls into a coma. His soul travels to a place where the greatest of the great gather, the Honorable Hall of Heroes. There 1,000 years pass as Davy undergoes excruciating training under their watchful eyes to become a hero too strong for his own good. Now back to his timeline and his kingdom, he's wide awake and the enemies hiding in the king's court better be prepared. The prince they had dismissed is now their biggest threat. To some, I'm definitely overestimating this manga, but to me it was absolutely amazing. It's just like your average story. Weak guy trains and gets strong powers. That's exactly what I like about it. It doesn't skip over certain topics that make you think, wait a minute, how did that even happen? It's got good pacing. It's good. If you're looking for your average isekai manga, this is it. 6. The tutorial is too tough. Lee Ho-jae had given up his life as a pro gamer, until one day he received a mysterious message. Congratulations. You've been invited to the tutorial world. Intrigued, he enters the game and confidently chooses Hell difficulty, but soon learns that he is trapped there. With a mere 0.01% survival rate, Ho-jae must somehow overcome the game's agonizing challenges to figure out the real reason he was invited. This tutorial may be tough, but its secrets are what's truly hellacious. The story is interesting and the progression of the story is of excellent pace, not fast enough for it to be full of holes, but yet not too slow for us to wonder as to when is the storyline going to move. The art is going great with the story. The characters are okay, but because there are so little characters for now, I am unable to give more feedback. The few characters that were introduced were developed enough to seem real. The MC is a typical Korean gamer, but without the toxic behavior. There hasn't been a lot of depth with the MC's personality and emotions for now, but there is a high chance that that will change in the future, seeing as the manhwa only has 29 chapters for now. 5. Warble. Humans live in the overworld, and demons in the underworld. There is only one way for humans to travel between worlds. Mankind's last hope, Warble. This is so good and the concept is so cool. The only reason why it's not a 10 is because there were a few misunderstandings near the end, and when it got solved it was just kinda like, okay. But don't let that deter you from reading, because the misunderstanding wasn't really prevalent or annoying. I love the difference in all the characters and their distinct personalities. And the art was so gorgeous, especially the solo mix scenes. And this is my own problem, and these things probably wouldn't have fit in with the story perfectly, but I wish the stories kinda stopped more, because when I binge read all the chapters in one night, oops. The story is always moving on and progressing without many breaks or leisure scenes to take in what's happening, but I guess that makes sense since the characters are in a time crunch. This is nice because the story is always moves at a steady pace and doesn't have many filler scenes. Anyways, would highly recommend if you read Solo Leveling. 4. I get stronger the more I eat. Known as Pet Shop, Mr. Kim has the unique ability to absorb the skills of the creatures he eats. One day, Pet Shop is mysteriously transported to a magical world full of orcs, trolls, and monsters. A new world, new chow, and new skills. Now Pet Shop is determined to become the most powerful creature in the world. Follow his epic climb to the top of the food chain. This is a flawed, yet very unique manhwa. Let me start by saying that I highly enjoyed the MC of this manhwa. He's a brutal asshole who murders and kills selfishless and without hesitation. It's refreshing to see. That being said, he is only a part of why I like this story. What really takes it over the top is that it's essentially a deconstruction of many tropes within the genre. It takes common concepts, righteous heroes, nobilities and royalty, systems and skills, etc., and tries to present in a way that would be more familiar to reality and answers questions that normally doesn't get asked. The hero's party disperses after beating the great evil only to become corrupt themselves. A king that raises his son to be righteous, hoping he'll become king, also sending assassins after another son who he views as evil. And a moral goddess who cares neither for good or evil, but only balance and progress regardless of how it is achieved. A church that raises saints and holy warriors to protect people, also uses the same soldiers as weapons for fighting and hunt down those who cross it. The manhwa is full of such things, and I love that. Nothing is black and white. Good is subjective. Those who are righteous can commit evil later on. Those who are unjust can still contribute to the greater good and be recognized for it. Even the concept of a dungeon was given a new explanation, and it's very creative. It really feels like nothing is simple in the story, and it's better for it. However, the great weakness of this story is, well, the story itself. The author is great at world building and creates a believable world. However, he is not so great at creating a coherent and compelling plot. In a way, that's a strength and a weakness. To begin, the story never drags. Everything moves at lightning pace and everything is resolved in a very common sense way. The weakness, though, is that suspense doesn't build up strongly. In fact, one might be surprised at how the story moves, in that the climax is not necessarily the climax. Furthermore, the author has a poor way of transitioning. Very often, he would present a new situation then explain how it happens afterwards. It makes the story feel very jerky. Other times, things may happen and the explanation isn't clear-cut. All the same, I highly recommend this story simply for how it uniquely presents everything. It is one of my favorite reads. 3. The Second Coming of Gluttony. He was an addict, a loser, a despicable human being. But one fleeting dream that may not be a dream at all reawakens his once lost senses. Possessing a very unique ability, he will use that, and the dream, to forge his path in the world now known as the Lost Paradise. Is the kind of hardcore, cliffhanger almost every chapter story you want to binge when it has hundreds of chapters, honestly, but even though there's a crushing disappointment that leaves you hanging, I'd still suggest starting this when you have the time. There are 30 chapters out at the time I'm writing this, that I've read and cliffhangers. Fair warning. It is gory. You learn that within the first few panels, a crow rips an eyeball out of a corpse's skull, heavy-handed symbolism there and absolutely foreshadowing the nasty nature of the story. And it definitely qualifies as thriller, horror, not just psychological. 2. Knockin' on the dungeon door. One day, faint-hearted Hyunbok Kim opens his apartment door and is startled to find a dungeon full of monsters instead of the world he knows. At first he hides. But when all else fails, it falls to Hyunbok to defeat the dungeon bosses or die trying. Luckily, he's not alone. With the help of his skeleton friends, and a gift from a mysterious benefactor, he develops his rare talent for magic while learning about bravery and friendship. Hyunbok seems ready to face whatever the dungeon throws at him, but is he? It's pretty good until now. If you have time to spare, go for it and read this. The mech is not stupid and the plot is interesting. 1. Monster ga offereru sakai ni nada no da, suki ni ikatai to omoamasu. On his way home from his office, the main protagonist drove and ran over a big dog. At that moment, he heard the sudden sound of a voice inside his head. The monster has been subjugated, gaining experience points. Before anyone knew, the world has changed. Monsters appear. This is a game-like world where levels, skills, and status exist. This is an adventure where the modern world becomes fantasy and where the main protagonist has to strive hard for his survival. This manga is really good. Basically, before anyone knew, the world has changed into that of an isekai or a game-like world full of monsters and where levels, skills, and status exist. This is an adventure where the modern world becomes fantasy and where the main protagonist has to strive hard for his survival. The story is awesome. We normally only see reincarnated or summoned people to another world, but this case is completely different. There's no truck-kun or the like. The characters' development and growth are splendid. You can clearly see the change on their mentality as well as secondaries' characters' distinct features. As for the MC, is not a coward, in fact he's really smart but doesn't run to danger like a fool and is not OP, he just thinks, and a special thing is that his companion is a dog that also has powers and is almost OP, which is very interesting. As for the art, it is good but it doesn't reach the god level, thus I didn't give it maximum points.